Hello, today we are going to learn how to zine and what a zine is. So this is just a quick video of showing how this one piece of printed paper turns into a zine. Don't worry, in this video there is a slowed down example on how to create your own fold for a zine. Let's start with what is a zine. What is a zine? Taken from fanzine. They are self-published works. Most are printed on photocopies. Zines can be art, collage, comics, cartoons, fan, feminist, pre-zines about a biography, poetry, LGBTQ, mega, stories, tutorial, and more. Typically with a zine, you would like to work with pencil first and then trace your lines with ink and let them dry, and then erasing the pencil lines and touching up the ink. Now the secret with this is definitely going nice and light with that pencil so you don't have the hard pencil marks when you erase. Most artists use ink for zines, however it is not required for us. We will be able to use whatever materials readily available for us for our own zine. You can even include color in your zine. Typically artists that worked with zine would usually just use black and white because it was an easier way to make photocopies and get their message out to the public. This was a way to share your ideas, your beliefs, your art, your story in a fast, easy, and cheap way compared to publishing it into a magazine. Artists that create zines typically would work with black and white, or if they had the ability to work with color, they'd make color copies. It depends on the artist's availability. For these zines, it shows an example of how you can work with a large scale of 11 by 17 inches, and you can actually shrink it down with a function on a copier by 50%, which would be an 8.5 by 11, which is the size of a copy paper. And then here's a basic mini diagram on how a zine works. There is a cover page, a back cover, and then there are 7 pages that you can put your work, all made from one piece of paper. Now some zines are bound with using a sewing needle and thread, where you can sew the edges and give it a bound book look. For the project that we are doing in our class, we will not be binding our books, but you can see how other artists do bind their zines. Great tools to have when using a zine is a ruler, if you're using lettering guides, a plastic eraser or a normal eraser, and then staples. We don't need these. All the materials that we're going to need is a piece of paper, scissors. If you do have a ruler for writing straight edges, that'd be super handy to have too. And then a pencil is very important so we can draw lightly with those pencils and have our ideas in for whatever the topic is for our zine. Let's get started on how to fold our zine. So we're going to hold our paper landscape style and fold it down. Now, when folding, it's really important to line up your corners. Right here, you can see how my corners are not lined up and my edges are not straight. So I'm going to take some time and really focus on lining up those corners. This is a key with folding zines. You want your zines to be nice and straight because when you go to put them together to make that small book, you'll be able to see if there is imperfections with the folding. So take your time and really line those corners up. Now I'm going over nice and gently with the fold to see it straight, and then I take my fingernail, or you can use the edge of something, and run it across to make it a nice crisp line. Now we're opening up the paper and we're going to fold in the opposite direction now. Remember, the key is to line up those corners to have a nice straight edge, so really take your time with this. And then I'm pressing gently, and then I'm using the edge of my fingernail, or you can use the edge of a pencil to really crisp that line. Now I'm opening it up, taking half of the page and folding right to the crease. I'll be doing the same step on the left of the paper. Now something that's going to be handy is that every crease that you do, if you do it the opposite way, it's going to make the folds very nice. So I'm going to open it up and fold it in half. Now this is where we're going to be making one cut on this. I'm going to cut straight across on that crease of the fold. Now the side that I'm cutting on is where the paper is folded. So we can see that right here the paper is folded and there's no gap, whereas the other side is the open side. So make sure you are cutting on that folded side. When you open your paper, it should fold nice and gently into a zine. Right now it's not folding gently for me because when I folded my papers, I only folded one way. So what I'm going to do is open it up and I'm going to fold the creases the opposite direction so that there's nice crisp lines both directions. So I folded these papers the opposite way that I folded earlier, and now the zine is folding nicely. And there you go. Now our zine is ready for our artwork. So for the artwork, you can either open the zine all the way up and draw that way, which is the way I highly recommend it. That way you have a flat surface and no lines or details are going to the other side of your paper. Now here's how the diagram would work with how to do your zine. The cover and back cover are on the bottom. Pages 7 and 6 are on the bottom. Now what you notice in this diagram is that page 2, 3, 4, and 5 are upside down, which means when I go to draw on those sides, I'm going to have to flip the paper so that I'm holding the paper the correct way. And then we fold our zine back up, and you'll be able to notice where the cover and the back cover is. It's kind of hard right now because it's a blank piece of paper. Now when you do draw, you don't want to draw all the way to the edge because as earlier, like I said, if you were to make a photocopy of this, the photocopier will take a small section off the edge, so each page on that edge will be cut off. So let's make sure you remember that. Don't draw all the way to the edge. Now if you wanted to add a message inside of your zine, either to write a definition or a note or an illustration or ideas, you can always flip open and you have another side to draw on. So that's something handy to keep in mind with whatever project that you're working on for your zine. I can't wait to see how our zines come out. I hope this was very helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to email me.